It's a musical, and nothing's as amazing as a musical, with song and dance and sweet romance and happy endings happening by happenstance. Bright lights, stage fights, and a dazzling chorus. You want to be great, then you gotta create a musical.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to join us this afternoon. My name is Troy Siebels. I'm the president and CEO of the Hanover Theatre, and I'm grateful to you for giving us a little of your time. We are here on Zoom today because this is a point in time when we're not able to gather in person and when the Hanover Theatre is not able to stage live performances as we have for the last 12 years. So instead, we're working to engage our audiences in other ways, and we're preparing for a date in the hopefully not too distant future when we can once again come together for the magic of live theater. That's what the 1926 Society is all about, is planning for the future. It's a group of individuals and families that have recognized the Hanover Theatre and Conservatory in their estate planning, whether it's through a bequest or one of the other options you'll hear about in a few minutes. It's not all wealthy people. It's people that care about the theater and that want to do their part to make sure that it survives and thrives for future decades and generations. I am so proud of all that we have been able to do at the theater to revitalize Worcester's downtown, to change the lives of the 500 kids that perform and participate in conservatory classes, and of the impact we have on the literally thousands of kids in the Worcester Public Schools and beyond that participate in our outreach programs. The impact of what we do is already so great that I feel that we have a responsibility to make sure that impact continues. Now, a little bit of housekeeping, and many of us have been on countless Zoom calls and webinars and such over the last 6 months, and you may be familiar with the Q&A feature. We will have some time for questions at the end of this or after the informational piece of this. So if you have questions, just click Q&A at the bottom of your screen and type them in anytime. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce the theater's hardest working board member and the chair of our development committee, Lisa McDonough.
Thanks, Troy. I'm not so sure about that, but I like being called that. Hello, I am Lisa McDonough. I'm on the board of trustees of the Hanover Theatre, as well as its chair of development. Welcome to everybody to today's 1926 Legacy Society virtual luncheon. Who would think I would ever put those two words together, virtual and luncheon, but as it is. All of us here today know the true value of the Hanover Theatre to the cultural vibrancy of Worcester, as Troy mentioned, and its key role in not only the Renaissance, but the renewal of the city over the past 12 years. Though COVID has thrown us all a curveball, the theater is already reimagining what the new theater experience will be of the future and what it'll look like. And with all of your help, we'll have the resiliency to continue the cultural revitalization of Worcester, along with its conservatory and the new brick box theater. So I just have a heartfelt thank you to the current members of the 1926 Legacy Society, as well as those considering today joining, as you are an important part of the future of Hanover Theatre. Thanks. Back to Troy.
Thanks, Lisa. We're fortunate to have you on the board as a part of the theater family. It's my pleasure now to introduce our guest speakers. Barbara Fields is the president and CEO of the Greater Worcester Community Foundation. Has been in that role for about a year, I think, and has led that agency in its partnership with the United Way and City of Worcester to raise more than $10 million and grant more than $8.6 million to date through the Worcester Together Central Mass COVID-19 Fund, which has made such a difference to so many organizations right now. Barbara served for 20 years as the founding executive director of the Rhode Island office of Local Initiatives Support Corporation, which is a national leader in community development. And her work with LISC led to a presidential appointment in the Obama administration as the New England Regional Administrator, for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Thank you, Barbara, for giving us of your time today. And Tracy Craig has joined us as well. Tracy is a partner in the law firm Myrick O'Connell and chair of the firm's Trusts and Estates Group. She focuses her practice in estate planning, estate administration, tax-exempt organizations, guardianships and conservatorships, and elder law. Tracy's been named a Massachusetts super lawyer by Boston Magazine and Law and Politics every year since 2013, and was selected by her peers for inclusion in the Best Lawyers in America 2021 in the field of trusts and estates. So Barbara and Tracy, thank you so much for giving us of your time today, and welcome.
All right, great. Thank you so much for that kind introduction, and thank you for having us. And congratulations to Hanover for managing through this very difficult time. I don't believe we're out of the woods yet, and it's been very hard. And we consider the Hanover Theatre, your staff, your board, not only an asset to the community, but a key partner for us at the Greater Worcester Community Foundation. As you said, I've been in that role for a year, and I've had the opportunity before COVID to spend some time at the theater, know what a valuable asset you are to this community. And so we're excited to talk today about how we can do more together.
Thank you.
You have already established your 1926 Legacy Society with us a couple of years ago, and the idea today is to bring you some more information. A planned gift is just one of the opportunities one can have to give to the community. And by doing that, making a planned gift, you become invested in the continued sustainability and ongoing life of an organization that you feel very attached to and very committed to. In addition, you would not just be supporting the Hanover Theatre, but it's an investment in the local landscape of arts and culture. And as Lisa said, also that it's really, Hanover has played a role in the revitalization of downtown Worcester, something that I hope as we come out of the pandemic will continue, spurred on by additional activity at the Hanover. So when making a planned gift, the foundation is able to work with our donors and help you to have sustained support for an organization like the Hanover that you care about. And people always are balancing their commitment to their family and their community when they think about their trust or their estate. But I wanted to just quote one of our donors in our Legacy Society said that, quote, leaving all you have to your family is a good legacy, but leaving a percentage to the community makes it an even better legacy. And that is really how we think about this. And when I need expertise in this area, the foundation really covers all of this. We have been fortunate to have Tracy Craig serve on our board, and she recently completed her term, but we're still engaging with her. As Troy said in his intro, she is an expert in this field locally and nationally. So I'm going to turn it over to her, and hopefully you, whatever questions you may have, we might have some time to answer them. But thank you all for being here today and for your ongoing commitment to the Hanover Theatre and to the Worcester community.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you, Troy. It's my pleasure to be here today at the Hanover Theatre and on behalf of the Greater Worcester Community Foundation to talk to you for maybe about 10 minutes or so about some planned giving, what it is, some concepts about that, different ways that you can look at it for your giving. And as Troy said in the beginning of the presentation, there is a Q&A feature. And so if you have any questions for me, I will be taking questions at the end of the presentation. Like I said, it'll be about 10 minutes, and then we'll invite Troy to come back on, and he will be our moderator and feed them to me because we're now at the limits of my technological capabilities, just being here and broadcasting. So I'm happy that I made it. This is my first webinar. I've done lots of public speaking, but this is the first time via Zoom. So hopefully it'll all go fine. As Barbara and Troy said, I am a trust and estates attorney. I have been doing that for about 28 years or so. And for the last 15 years here in Worcester at Merrick O'Connell, which is one of the larger firms here in town. And as a trust and estates attorney, one of the things that we do for people is we do their estate plans, which is a lot about how do you leave your assets when you pass away? And sometimes, you know, how do you give it away when you're alive? And when we talk about planned giving, this is a little handout that I have created that we're screen sharing with you. And if it's something that you're interested in receiving, we can certainly email it to you later on. But basically, when I talk about planned giving, it's really about thinking about your charitable gifts in a strategic way, basically. Certainly, it's easy to write an organization a check, but there are lots of other ways that you can benefit your community, the Hanover Theatre, charities by doing some planning. And planning planning really means strategic. And when we talk about strategic, we mean what ways that are tax, what ways can we take advantage of tax benefits that may be available through our planning, okay? So we combine the tax benefits, which are for the individuals giving the gifts, and that will allow us to leave a legacy, help the charity, help the community in sort of a magnified way. And the reason there are tax benefits when you give to a charity is because I think most people think about charities, about, you know, organizations that do good and help the community. And we all know lots of charities such as Greater Worcester Community Foundation and the Hanover Theatre, and I'm sure lots of other charities that are on your radar screen. But really, a charitable organization is a tax designation under the Internal Revenue Code. And therefore, when you give to charities, they are considered tax exempt. So number one, you can receive an income tax deduction when you give money to charity. And there is an itemized deduction on our income tax returns to get that deduction. And these deductions can be important for people during their life and for people that they want to leave assets to after they die. And there is also estate tax deduction. So when I meet with people about doing their estate plan, a lot of times people don't realize that there's an estate tax. There's a federal estate tax. We have a very high exemption amount of about $11.5 million, which means that about 99.8% of people do not have to currently worry about federal estate taxes. But we do have a much lower Massachusetts estate tax exemption amount. So that's only $1 million. So what that means, if you are a Massachusetts resident and you have assets in excess of $1 million, there is a potential for a Massachusetts estate tax when you die. There is, however, an estate tax charitable deduction. So if you leave assets to charity at your death, those assets are not subject to tax. So when we do the planning, we combine the estate tax and the income tax benefits to really kind of get the most bang for our buck, to maximize the amount that goes to the charity. And also when the charity receives all of these assets, they don't pay any income tax on it, because the charity is tax exempt. So this is really what we mean by plan giving and being strategic. Accomplishing our goals, helping the charities, but how can we do that in a way where we can get all the available tax benefits? And what I do find is that the tax benefits can be quite substantial and can really encourage people to give even more than they might otherwise considering. So that's sort of the, what we're looking at with plan giving. And so what I've done here in sort of the second part of the sheet is just sort of list some basic types of plan giving that I might talk to my clients about when they came to me. This list is not exhaustive. 10 minutes is not enough time to give an exhaustive talk on plan giving, but these I thought were the kind of main ones that people are interested in. So I have sort of three listed: bequests, what to do with retirement assets, and what to do with appreciated assets. So when I say bequest, that is, when I draft a will, which disposes of assets when people die, or a trust, which can actually do the same thing as a will in terms of being like a will substitute, we can just simply state in it, I leave $10,000 to the Hanover Theatre. That is called a bequest, and it is legally valid as long as your document is properly signed and executed. And it's a very simple way to do it. And a lot of times when people want to do smaller amounts, that is exactly what I will do. We just draft it right into the document, and it takes effect when you pass away. And it's very straightforward, and you really will need an attorney to help you do this, but it's pretty straightforward, it's pretty easy, and it's something that I do routinely, almost on a daily basis with my clients. The next couple of strategies dealing with your retirement assets and appreciated assets, things can get a little bit more complex there. So with retirement assets, we're talking traditional IRAs, 401ks, 403bs. We're really talking those pre-tax dollars that you have saved from working, okay? That's what we're talking about here. And those pre-tax dollars, when you take them out, are subject to income tax at ordinary income tax rates. And ordinary income tax rates are the highest. They're the highest rates that you could possibly pay. So there are sort of two main benefits here. Number one, during your life, once you've turned 70 and a half, okay, you have to be 70 and a half to do this. You can do what's called a qualified charitable distribution. So it used to be when people turned 70 and a half, they had to take required minimum distributions from their retirement accounts under the law. That was sort of changed at the end of 2019 with a law called the Secure Act. And under the Secure Act, that age changed to 72 and a half. So you don't have to start taking your retirement benefits until you're 72 and a half. But they didn't change the age for the qualified charitable distribution. And what the qualified charitable distribution says is you can take up to $100,000 from your IRA, for example, each year, and just give it directly to a charity. And it's not counted as income to you, because normally what would happen is you would take out the money that would be income to you, and then you would have to give it to the charity. And you would find that if you did that, you did have to pay more income tax than you got a deduction for. So this lets you just do the rollover directly to the charity. And also once you turn 70 and a half, it actually satisfies required minimum distribution amount. And so I do have clients who don't, want this income that they have to take from IRAs, and so they will do this type of qualified charitable distribution. Now, when you pass away, you will leave your IRA to whoever you want, and you do that through a beneficiary designation. But when the person inherits, they have to pay income tax on what they take out, okay? And also, these IRAs can be subject to estate tax. They're subject to two taxes, estate tax and income tax, unless you leave them to charity. So whenever I'm working with people and they talk to me about charitable giving and they have assets in their IRA, that's where I'm looking first, because that's the most tax beneficial way to do it. Because if you have $500,000 in an IRA and you leave that to your children, they will have to now take out the money from the IRA over 10 years. Under the Secure Act, they can no longer do that over their life expectancy. And those income taxes will be accelerated over those 10 years. But if you say left it to the Hanover Theatre would take the whole $500,000, not pay any income taxes, and you would get an estate tax deduction. So when you're looking at how to allocate the resources in your estate, you should always be looking to retirement accounts first for charity, because they will not pay the income tax. Your children will, your spouse will, everybody else will. So that is something to always keep in mind. I think I'm nearing the end of my 10 minutes, so I will quickly go over our last bullet point and then open it up to questions. Appreciated assets. So we're talking about securities that you might have on the stock exchange, right? And so if you have appreciated securities and you sell them, you will have to pay capital gains tax. Okay, because you have something, you have your tax basis, what you paid for these securities, they appreciate. If you want to sell those assets, you will realize the gains, you will pay a capital gains tax. But you can give those appreciated assets directly to a charity, they will take them, and you will get the full fair market value tax deduction on your income taxes. So you won't have to realize those gains. Then the charities can take in those assets and sell the assets and not pay any capital gains tax because they're tax exempt. So that's always one way to think about it. If you want to just benefit a charity now and you don't want to part with the cash, think about appreciated securities, okay? So that would be a direct donation. Then there's things like called charitable gift annuities. The good thing about a charitable gift annuity is you certainly don't need an attorney to establish one. A charitable gift annuity is basically you give a set sum of assets to an organization, and the the Greater Worcester Community Foundation will manage this for on behalf of the Hanover Theatre. And based upon your age and the amount that you give, you will receive an annual annuity. And it's all set by a regulatory board. So there's sort of no discretion. It's based on your age and the amount that you give. And so this is good if you want to give assets to charity, but also get an annuity stream, and you will get a partial charitable deduction based upon the amount that you give in a formula that is used. Finally, to get a little fancier, and for this final thing, you will definitely need an attorney. You could establish a charitable remainder trust. So a charitable remainder trust is an irrevocable trust. It's what we call a split interest trust, which is a trust where there's people who get an income interest during their life. Could be you, could be your spouse, could be your kids, okay? And then when your income interest is over, your annuity interest is over, the remainder goes to charity, okay? Split interest. People get some assets, charity gets remaining assets. And the good thing about a charitable remainder trust is it's actually a tax-exempt vehicle. So if you have, say, I've had clients that do this with appreciated real estate. They want to sell real estate, but they don't want to recognize capital gains, so they'll put the real estate in the charitable remainder trust. The charitable remainder trust can sell the real estate, does not have to then recognize the gain. They take their annuity every year, and as they receive their annuity every year, they recognize a portion of the gain, and then when the term of the charitable remainder trust is up, the remainder goes to charity. It's also possible to leave an IRA to a charitable remainder trust, because the charitable remainder trust could actually take all the assets out of the IRA when you pass away, not recognize the gain. Then you could sort of leave an annuity interest for your spouse or your children or whoever you'd like to benefit, and the charity will get the amount at the end. So I sort of apologize for the way that I rushed through that at the end. That's sort of a complex idea, charitable remainder trust. Happy to answer any questions about it. I think I am at the end of my time. I'm afraid I'm going to get the technological boot. So I'm going to invite Troy back on for questions.
Yeah, the hook is coming out. We're going to pull you off the screen. Thank you, Tracy. My head is spinning a little bit.
I'm sorry. It was a lot for 10 minutes. It was a lot for 10 minutes. For
sure. And I can see how I'm sure you could probably talk for 10 hours and get into all of the detail. And I don't know, I don't see questions yet. It strikes me that it may be a little much, and people may have to think about it a little bit. We are going to send a follow-up with information on how folks could contact Myrick O'Connell in your office if they for more information, and Barbara, the Greater Worcester Community Foundation. I do have a question. I know that I can in my estate plan and my will, I can leave $1,000 to the Worcester Art Museum or to anybody. But how much do I really need to be able to leave before one of these more complicated vehicles makes sense? I'm sure that it would never make sense to leave $1,000 in a charitable remainder trust. So for a charitable remainder trust, we're talking like at least hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more. And then, when I tell people to start thinking about using their retirement funds, is not for gifts like $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000, because when you have assets in a retirement fund, you have to name a beneficiary designation. And from a practical standpoint, all of the financial institutions that manage these, they require you to name your beneficiary designations by percentages. So you could say, Hanover Theatre 1%, Greater Worcester Community Foundation 1%. But what I find is a lot of people aren't comfortable with that because they don't know the exact amount, because that account is going to go up and down. So once people start to be in the very significant range, more than say like, $10,000, we're in the $20, $30, $40, $50,000 range, $100,000 range. I really am encouraging them to use their retirement accounts. And there are strategies where you could, because if you have an IRA and you have $1 million in your IRA and you're not comfortable saying 10% to this charity, you can carve up that IRA and create lots of little IRAs and sort of monitor, kind of monitor how much is in it and sort of manage it that way. But by naming a beneficiary
designation for an IRA, you're never going to know the exact amount. So these do tend to be the people who want to leave significant gifts. Also, the more assets that you have and the bigger your estate, the more estate tax you're looking at, especially if you're over these federal exemption amounts, right? And you're looking at paying federal estate taxes in the amount of 40 to 50%. Which is where it can be once your estate is upwards of, you know, $25–30 million. And then your kids are going to get a retirement account subject to a 50% estate tax and then all the income taxes. Then it really becomes very compelling to start looking at doing something charitable with your retirement account. So the more the tax hit, the more compelling it is to use your retirement accounts. But for, you know, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, I usually just put that right in the will or the trust.
Some of us are probably not going to have to worry about that federal exemption amount. I'm probably not going to hit that. I'm not going to be in that $30 million
Well,
range,
as I said, 99.8% of people do not have to worry about it now. There is concern about what will happen after the election, but, you know, we'll have to see what happens there.
Yeah. And Barbara, I know that you manage these, a great number of these trusts, do you not? Does the Greater Worcester Community Foundation does exactly this?
Yes, we have funds for about between 2 and 3 dozen organizations in the community. It's a growing area of our work because I think people are beginning to realize, given the things that Tracy talked about, that there are different vehicles. So we are trying to expand our own legacy society, but we're also expanding it for our partner agencies. So at this point, it's about 15% of our portfolio. So it is a significant piece.
And then, you know, something else that the Greater Worcester Community Foundation does is it's not really like, well, it is plan giving, but in a little bit of a different way. They have donor advised funds, and you can create a fund at the Greater Worcester Community Foundation. My husband and I did it, and you can put money in there and then Greater Worcester Community Foundation is the charity, and then you can make distributions from that donor advised fund to or for the benefit of any other charitable organization. And so my husband and I use that, for example, to focus on our giving in the Worcester community. Mm-hmm. And that could include the Hanover Theatre. It could include, you know, any charitable organization. It can also be a good way to involve successive generations with charitable giving, because you can involve them with your donor advised fund and help your kids, you know, your kids or your grandkids or your nieces and nephews can help you pick the charities. And I've had a number of families who do things like this, and it's a really rewarding experience for the whole family. So you can sort of consider it your own little mini private foundation. And you know, I've worked with a lot of families on that type of giving, and that can be, as I said, very rewarding.
The other thing with that, I want to say, so if you set up a donor advised fund and you're giving distributions like Tracy said to the Hanover or other charities, you can, upon your passing, you can give that to the next generation, or you can turn it into a designated fund. You can say, I would like to, whatever's left in the fund, I want to then designate the gift, the annual gift distribution that we do to the Hanover Theatre, for example.
And many people do that. And I think it's very, I don't know, I believe that while I was on the board, that had really expanded.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you both. As I said, it's a lot to take in, but for me, it's just helpful to understand what kind of thing is possible, so that so that I can reach out to you and learn more if it's right for me. So.
Well, I'm happy to talk to anybody at any time, and I do apologize. I do feel like I flew through it a bit, and it was a lot. So if anyone has any questions in the future, please, you know, feel free to reach out.
Thank you. I really appreciate both of you spending your time. Everyone's busy, and you all are in positions where I'm sure you've got a lot of things going on. So thank you so much. And it's
you're very welcome. It was my pleasure. My pleasure.
It was a real pleasure. You're a great partner, and we want to continue to work with you in any and all ways that make sense, that benefit our community. So thank you for the work you're doing every day, Troy.
Thank you. Thank you both so much. It is my pleasure to introduce Tim Evans. So I have had the opportunity to work with Tim Evans, who's our music director and organist for our annual production of A Christmas Carol for the past 12 years. And if you've been to a performance of A Christmas Carol, you've seen Tim sitting at the mighty Wurlitzer. And he's just one of the most talented guys I know. Welcome, Tim, and thank you for giving us a little of your time this afternoon and taking us to a lighter place now.
Another opening, another show in Philly, Boston, or Baltimore. A chance for stage folks to say hello. Another opening of another show that you hope at last will make your future forget your past. Another pain where the ulcers grow. Another opening of another show. 4 weeks you rehearse and rehearse. 3 weeks and it couldn't be worse. 1 week, will it ever be right? And out of the hat, it's that big first night. The overture is about to start. You cross your fingers and hold your heart. It's curtain time and away we go. Another opening of another show. 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 week, will it ever be right? Then out of the hat, it's that big first night. The overture is about to start. You cross your fingers and hold your heart. It's curtain time and away we go. Another opening of another opening of another show. The costumes, the scenery, the makeup, the props, the audience who lifts you when you're down. The heartaches, the headaches, the backaches, the flops. The sheriff who escorts you out of town. The opening when your heart beats like a drum. The quarantine when customers can't come. There's no business like show business. There's no business, there's no business, there's no business, there's no business. But through the miracle of modern technology, we're able to be together here today. Thank you so much for being with me. And thank you for supporting the Hanover Theatre. It's very important when the theater is dark. So during this literal dark time that you are there to support the mission and the vision of the Hanover Theatre. I thank you. If you don't recognize me from A Christmas Carol, let me give you a little reminder. Because depending on where you sit, you basically look at the back of my head for 2 hours. But I'm glad to be with you face to face right now. So the program that I've prepared for you today, Ernest Hemingway said, write about what you know. And if we look back through Broadway theater repertoire, there are quite a few shows about the theater. And so I would like to share with you some of those songs today. So for the next 25 minutes or so, let me entertain you. Let me make you smile. Let me do a few tricks, some old and some new tricks. I'm very versatile. And if you're real good, I'll make you feel good. I want your spirits to climb. So let me entertain you, and we'll have a real good time. Yes, sir, we'll have a real good time. And I'll make you feel good. I want your spirits to climb. So let me entertain you, and we'll have a real good time. Yes, sir. We'll have a real good time. And that was, of course, from Julie Stein and Stephen Sondheim's Gypsy, about the life of Gypsy Rose Lee, the famous burlesque performer, and her overbearing theater mother, Rose. Gypsy took place during the final years of vaudeville theater, which vaudeville was music, and it also was other kinds of entertainments. Oftentimes a monologuist, oftentimes people spinning plates and trick poodles and things like that. Bruce, that was for you. But another popular genre of show during that time was the Follies. And if you think of the most famous example, the Ziegfeld Follies, beautiful girls descending the staircases, and it was mostly a musical review type of a show. So the next two songs I would like to perform for you are from Stephen Sondheim's Follies, which is about a reunion of former showgirls in one of the Follies shows. The first is an introduction to the beautiful girls, and the second song is one that is sung by one of the showgirls, again, many years later, looking back on the time that she began on Broadway. Hats off, here they come, those beautiful girls. That's what you've been waiting for. Nature never fashioned a flower so rare. What rose can compare? Nothing respectable, quite so delectable. Cheer them in their glory, diamonds and pearls, precious jewels by the score. This is what beauty can be, beauty celestial, the best you'll agree. All for you, these beautiful girls. Caution on your guard with beautiful girls, where your reason is undone. Beauty can't be hindered from taking its toll. You may lose control. Faced with these Loreleis, what man can moralize? Caution, here's the home of beautiful girls. Flawless charmers, everyone. This is how Samson was shorn, each in her style a Delilah reborn, each a gem of beautiful diadem of beautiful. Welcome them, these beautiful girls. I'm just a Broadway baby, walking off my tired feet, pounding 42nd Street to be in a show. Oh, Broadway baby, learning how to sing and dance, waiting for my one big chance to be in a show. Oh, gee, I'd like to be on some marquee, all twinkling lights, a to pierce the dark from Battery Park way up to Washington Heights. Someday maybe all my dreams will be repaid. Heck, I'd even play the maid to be in a show. Hey, Mr. Producer, yeah, I'm talking to you, sir. I don't need a lot, only what I got, plus a tube of grease paint and a follow spot. I'm a Broadway baby, slaving at the 5 and 10, waiting for that great day when I'll be in a show. Oh, Broadway baby, making rounds all afternoon, eating at a greasy spoon to save on my dough. Oh, at my tiny flat, there's just my cat, a bed and a chair. Still, I'll stick it till I'm on a bill all over Times Square. Someday, maybe, if I stick it long enough, I can get to strut my stuff. Working for a nice man like a Ziegfeld or a Weissman in a great big Broadway show. So a lot of these shows about the theater center around somebody wanting to make it big on stage. But not everyone wants to be in the theater to be on stage. From the producers. I want to be a producer of the hit show on Broadway. I want to be a producer, lunch at Sardi's every day. I want to be a producer, sport a top hat and a cane. I want to be a producer and drive those chorus girls insane. I want to be a producer. I want to sleep until 2:30. I want to be a producer and say you, not you. I want to be a producer, wear a tux on opening nights. I want to be a producer and see my name up there in lights. I want to be a producer. I want to dine with a duchess and a duke. I want to be a producer, drink champagne until I puke. I want to be a producer, show 'em everything I've got. I want to put on shows that will enthrall 'em, read my name in Winchell's column. I want to be a producer. 'Cause it's everything I'm not. I want to be a producer. So the producers centered around being successful or not being successful or being inadvertently successful on Broadway. But there is a special something that makes a success on Broadway. In 1976, Kander and Ebb produced Chicago about Roxy Hart, who was on trial for murdering her lover. She wants to turn the infamy of this into a showbiz career. But at one point, she is afraid that she might actually hang for this. And Her slick-talking lawyer, Billy Flynn, tells her, "Don't worry, this is all show business, and you're working with the biggest star. Give 'em the old razzle-dazzle, razzle-dazzle 'em. Give 'em an act with lots of flash in it, and the reaction will be passionate. Give 'em the old hocus pocus, bead and feather 'em. How can they see with sequins in their eyes? What if your hinges all are rusting? What if in fact you're just disgusting? Razzle dazzle 'em, and they'll never catch wise. Give 'em the old razzle dazzle, razzle dazzle 'em. Give 'em an act that's so splendiferous, row after row will grow vociferous. Give 'em the old flim flam flummox, fool and fracture 'em. How can they hear the truth above the roar? Throw on the fake and off a nagel, they'll never guess you're just a bagel. Razzle dazzle 'em, and they'll beg you for more. Give 'em the old razzle dazzle, razzle dazzle 'em. Give 'em the milk of old Methuselah. Everyone loves the big bamboozler. Give 'em the old three-ring circus, stun and stagger 'em. When you're in trouble, go into your dance. Long as you keep 'em way off balance, they'll never spot you've got no talents. Razzle dazzle 'em, and you've got a romance. Give 'em the old razzle dazzle, razzle dazzle 'em. Show 'em the first-rate sorcerer you are. Though you are stiffer than a girder, they'll let you get away with murder. Razzle dazzle 'em, razzle dazzle 'em, razzle dazzle 'em, and they'll make you a star. In the same year, 1976, another show came out that was also about the theater, but this time about dancers. A Chorus Line won the Tony that year for Best New Musical. Michael Bennett, a famous Broadway choreographer, had sat down with dancers in a workshop to talk to them about their how they got started in dancing, what their experience was as a dancer in the theater. And A Chorus Line was the result of this. One of the last questions that he asked the dancers is, what will you do when you can't dance anymore? Would you regret the time that you spent? Looking back, what would you say? And this song came out of that response. Kiss today goodbye, the sweetness and the sorrow. Wish me luck the same to you, but I can't regret what I did for love, what I did for love. Look, my eyes are dry. The gift was ours to borrow. It's as if we always knew. and I won't forget what I did for love, what I did for love. Gone, love is never gone as we travel on. Love's what we'll remember. Kiss today goodbye and point me toward tomorrow. We did what we had to do. Won't forget, can't regret what I did for love. What I did for love. What I did for love. And I think that's why we're all here today, because we love the theater, we love live theater, and we'll be back soon, someday. And before we give up hope, we need to remember from 42nd Street, another show about a young girl trying to make it on Broadway. She at some point becomes very discouraged, doesn't feel that she can do it, and is waiting at the train station to go back to Allentown. Of course, the director of the show, who needs him in her show, comes back and says to her, Allentown, you want to go back to Allentown and give up everything on Broadway. So before we lose hope, and trying not to torture metaphor too much, but before we all go back to our Allentowns, let's all remember, come on along and listen to the lullaby of Broadway. The hidey-hi and hoop-dee-doo, the lullaby of Broadway. The rumble of the subway train, the rattle of the taxis, the daffodils who entertain at Angelo's and Maxie's when a Broadway baby says goodnight. It's early in the morning. Manhattan babies don't sleep tight until the dawn. Good night, baby. Good night, milkman's on his way. Sleep tight, baby. Sleep tight, let's call it a day. Hey, come on along and listen to the lullaby of Broadway. The hidey-hi and hoop-dee-doo, the lullaby of Broadway. The band begins to go to town and everything gets hazy. You rock the fire, baby, round and everyone goes crazy. Hush, I'll buy you this and that. You hear a daddy saying, and baby goes home to her flat to sleep all day. Good night, baby. Good night, milkman's on his way. Sleep tight, baby. Sleep tight, let's call it a day. Listen to the lullaby of old Broadway. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you again for supporting the Hanover Theatre. and stay safe. We want you back in those seats when we're back. Thank you.
Tim, thanks so much. Really appreciate your time today, and thanks all of you for joining us this afternoon. We'll have a copy of this available on our website, and for all those who joined today, we'll send out contact information for Barbara and Tracy if you should need to contact them or have any questions. Thanks again for all your continued support of the theater. Have a great afternoon.